Hi guys, thanks for joining me again here on YouTube. Today I have a very important topic that I want to talk about with you guys from Erik. Many of you might know Erik already. If you don't, check out channelingerik.com. Erik is a spirit guide that I work with often to bring information to you guys. And sometimes I will connect to spirit and ask them for topics. But this time it's the other way around. I've been feeling a lot of push and a lot of energy behind this message. I feel like it's a big, powerful message that we need to address. And so we're going to talk about the end of time and what that actually means. So many of you guys have heard this. Maybe it's been just through talk on the street. Maybe it's been in conversation with your friends or at church. But we've all heard and maybe even experienced the fear of the end of time. Well, I want to share the messages from Erik and channel Erik for you guys to really demystify what that actually means. Erik makes me feel as though and talks about this being a huge misunderstanding, and it's time we address it because there's so much fear surrounding this topic. So Erik is here, and I'm just going to be talking back and forth with him, claircognizantly, and sharing with him what he sharing with you guys what he offers. So first of all, what do you think of? He says he wants you to think about this and feel it. What do you think of, and what do you feel when you hear someone say, "The end of time is near. The end is near." What do you think of, and how do you feel? If you automatically go to fear, you need to look at why. Is that fear someone else's, or is it a taught behavior or a reaction that's been conditioned, that you've been conditioned in with others? If so, now it's time to break free from that, he says. So he wants you guys to understand one thing. And as you guys know, when Erik gets passionate, he cusses a lot. So there might be some cuss words flying, but I'll try to filter some of it so I don't offend too many people. But when we look at the end of time, a lot of us envision and have even been taught this in different institutions, that the end of time means, everybody dissolving, everything dissolving and being gone. Some people even envision like a fiery, traumatic experience, but that's actually not true from Erik. He says the end of time is actually, it is near, he says, but it's near not because we're sinful, horrible, shitty people, he says. So go ahead and get rid of that belief. It's not because we're going to create our own failures and be our own destruction. It's not that at all. Instead, he says, the end of time actually means you will live in a place, in an awareness and a state of mind that does not need the concept of time to exist and be self-aware in reality and in correlation to and in conjunction to the reality around you. So let's break that down, he says. It's already happening. Plants, trees, even animals are already living in this manner. So life forms are already living in this way. So now it's just, he says, humans are like the last ones to jump on board. As soon as we jump on board with like not living up against the clock, then we have experienced the end of time. But just as you think the end of time is a traumatic, fiery, hellish experience, please know, he says, and he's being really soft with his energy and really compassionate, he says, please note that it's quite the opposite. When you stop living in accordance to time and stop subjecting your existence with the concept of time, you will realize euphoria. You will realize peace, he says, and joy and happiness. But really, when we live up against the clock and we subject ourselves and our happiness to time and the concept of time. For one, we turn ourselves into savages, he says, and we create misery. We diminish whatever happiness was there. We replace it with suffering. So, for example, he says, to give an example. So it's like, well, when I get married, I'll be happy. Or, that's like living like a savage, like time's going to save you. And he's like, fuck that. It's not true. Only you can save you, and it's a choice you make. So when you say that to yourself and think, well, when this happens, I'm going to be happy. When this takes place, I'm going to be so relieved. Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about, he says. When you subject your happiness and your existence to the concept of time, and you kind of put that staple in it, and then it stays trapped, he says, like in a box, and can't exist. Your happiness, your joy can't exist outside of that. It becomes enslaved to time. Of course, we've all stressed and worried about, oh, I got to get these things done before such and such time. Again, it creates stress, it creates worry and fear, and so on. So look at how, he says, I want you guys to be real with yourself and look at how in your life, look around you and even the people around you and look at how you do this. How do you live like a savage? Do you think time's going to save you? He's like, sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not, because time isn't real. What's real is you and your existence. Sure, we can keep track of things with this. That's tool number 1. And with the clock, that's tool number 2, he says. But they're tools. They're not a place for you to create identity. And that's where we're getting mixed up. He's correcting me. He didn't say mixed up. He said that's where we're getting fucked up. So sorry for the language, but that's him. So when we take our identity and our worth, even in our being, our existence, and we subject it up against the concept of time, we devalue who we are, and even our divinity diminishes. We don't even understand the divine affinity, he says, within us, and we don't even understand our immortality then at that point. We think that, again, if we don't meet these deadlines, then we failed. And then, of course, that triggers like a whole chain reaction of emotions. He says, so look at how you do this in your life. And here are some tips. He says, I want to give you some ways to change that. First of all, you have to be honest and willing enough, he says, can you truly look at your life and at least pinpoint where you do this? Can you be that honest with yourself? He says, talk about procrastinators too, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But be willing to look at those things. Now, are you brave enough to change it, to make changes, to be present and stop worrying about time outside of right here, right now? Because I promise you, right here, right now is all you're ever going to know, he says. Tomorrow, that sounds bad. He says, tomorrow's never going to come. You're never going to experience tomorrow as tomorrow. You're going to experience tomorrow as now. So don't live in that manner, like thinking and hoping that, oh, tomorrow's going to be better. Yes, you can keep hope. It's a whole different subject. Yes, you can hold hope, but don't bring yourself out of the now. Don't steal from your own presence in doing so. He says he wants to address procrastinators real quick because they also have a big issue with time. He says he's real funny with his body gestures too. He's like, he sits back and he's kind of like arrogant with his body mannerisms. But he says, people that procrastinate or have these terrible habits of procrastination tend to give time more power than giving now more power. So it's like, okay, I'm going to push this off later, and then when I get to it later, I'll get to it, I'll get it done, it'll be fine. So it's, you think you're maximizing and utilizing your time best now by putting that off till later, but actually you're just creating more stress, but a lack of presence. You're expanding yourself in an unhealthy way. So the more you procrastinate, think of it as like depleting your energy. He's showing your energy being pulled in like all these different directions. And the more you push off and push it off, the more you're diminishing your presence in the now moment. So if you have it, if you have something in your presence, if you have something in your life that you can take care of right now, then do it. Don't overwhelm yourself. You can't get it all done in a day's time, he says, but do what you can when you can. And then, so anyway, he wants to get back to the main idea, though, and diminish a lot of fears, because that's what he's really here to address. So those are some side little things to think about, the way you live in accordance to time, and how sometimes we can let that overrule us and rule our lives. So when we look at, he says, the concept, the end of time, 99% of people just resort to fear. Number one, because they don't know what that means. They don't know what to expect. And they feel like they don't have control, he says. So they feel fearful. They feel afraid of, oh, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen when time ends, or when the end is here. Well, it actually means pure, true presence, which is a place of absolute consciousness. You actually transcend. Okay, so he's saying you transcend cognition, like the whole thinking, the whole thought process. You transcend that altogether, and you become purely conscious, which means your awareness is now expanded because you're present, and you don't have to think. I know this sounds crazy and probably counterintuitive, but you don't have to think, because in this expanded awareness, you naturally know. It's expanding into something and then merging with it and cultivating that. Sort of like, he says, think about yourself now like a bank when you're in a conscious state. The more you expand into, the more you deposit, the more you have inside you, and it just builds and builds and builds like a savings. So he scratches his head and he's like, I never was good at saving money. But anyway, think about it like that. He says, the more you expand your awareness by being present and forgetting about the concept of time, the more joy you have, the more pure peace you have. There's many ways you can achieve peace, but sometimes it's an illusion. So again, that's a topic for a whole nother day. But pure consciousness is knowing that you are an immortal being, and that time has no bearing on your existence. Time cannot define you, because it's limited, it's finite, and your energy is not limited, it's infinite. So he's showing, like, basically just like an energy. That's such a weird example, but it's like an energy mismatch. And I said, can you give an example? He goes, well, yeah, it's like trying to put a stamp in thin air, like trying to stamp the air. If you put your stamp, put it in your ink pad, and it's full of ink, but you go to stamp the air, it's not going to leave a mark. It's the same thing with time. Time actually does not imprint on your soul, on who you are. It's just when you think about it and you create an identity with it, that you experience life in such a way that it seems like it does. So he wants you guys to start looking at this whole concept of the end of time as being when we actually come into a place where we embody heaven on earth, because we are fully conscious, we're fully at peace, we're fully present, and that is complete euphoria. That's heaven on earth. So he says, stop fearing when you hear people say the end is near, the end of time is coming. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's that people are going to be living, and they already are. We're already seeing waves of that happening, where people are living much more mindfully. They're present. He says they're focused on the now, and they're letting go of the rest, because they can't hold it anyway, and they're realizing that it makes them tired to try to hold on to everything else. So the more present we are, the more, oh, that's sweet. He says the more heavenly we become. So when you hear that next time, rejoice instead of revert in fear. rejoice knowing it's going to be a beautiful experience. It's a powerful experience of absolute consciousness, not a fiery, traumatic experience of end all be all. It's not like that, he says. So I hope that this simple little message helps you guys, because he's been at me to talk about this for a while now, and I just haven't sat down and taken the time to really let the information come through. But do what he says. Make a list and look at different things in your life that that you give time. Think about it like this too. He says, when you give time more power over you, for example, if you're sitting in the shittiest class in the world and you hate this class, you can't stand your instructor, it seems like it takes forever for an hour to go by. But yet, because you're giving time more power than your presence. But when you're with your best friend and you're having the greatest time of your life, time goes like that, because you're not thinking about time, you're present. So think about how different your world is going to be when you're not giving time so much power over you. So be willing to be brave enough to look at the different areas of your life where you can make those changes. Stop procrastinating, he says. Stop putting your shit off. Get it done if you can, and don't worry about it if you can't. Be as present as you can. Be as mindful as you can in the now moment, because that's all you're ever going to experience. So he's even encouraging you guys to share this message. If you hear someone else talking about like the end of time and what that means, and if you hear a tone of fear in their voice, address it. Talk to them. Dispel that fear wherever you can. That's why we're here, he says, to create unity by getting rid of fear. Fear is the division of all, he says. So we have to get rid of that. So I hope that this message does that for you guys, and I hope that it helps you maybe see time in a different way. And as always, thank you so much for joining me here and listening and believing in what I do, because I love what I do, and I hope that it helps you guys. Continue to send in your topic suggestions. If you have questions you'd like me to address, or you'd like me to channel Erik or anybody else on a certain topic, let me know. You can visit my website at kimbabcock.net. Send me an email. Also, check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And lastly, go to Amazon. You can find my book. It's called Inside Out. It is a book about teaching you how to be internally driven and not externally driven. The more internally driven you are, the more inner peace you'll have. So I hope it helps you guys like it helped me when I wrote it. And I thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.